Kathryn Garcia became head of the Port Authority a bit more than 6 weeks ago, and what a challenge it's been. Airport delays and a tragic accident, just two issues on a packed agenda. The Point starts right now. Kathryn Garcia is the executive director of the Port Authority of Newark and New Jersey. She is the first woman to hold the job. Now, you've only had the job for just about 6 or 7 weeks. What has this transition been like for you? It's been unbelievable, right?
I've definitely hit the ground running. There's been a little bit of snow and, of course, the tragedy at LaGuardia this past Sunday, and I really feel for the pilots who passed away in that collision. But the Port Authority is an amazing place, and I'm thrilled to be there.
Well, you know, I want to ask you about what happened at LaGuardia. I wonder if there are going to be any changes to procedures after the accident happened.
You know, so at this point, we're going to wait for the NTSB to sort of give us some guidance on what occurred and if there's anything that needs to be changed.
You know, the thing about LaGuardia is that it has a short runway. It's only 7,000 feet compared to Newark, which is 11,000 feet, and Kennedy, which is 14,005. I wonder if there are changes that have to be made to, like, ground lights or the pathways that planes have to take and the pathways that fire trucks have to take that would make it easier for people to get around.
As I said, I can't speculate on what they're going to find. Obviously, the FAA has strong regulatory authority over our airports, including everything from the size of a runway to the lights to the signs.
So, I mean, are you waiting to see what the NTSB says before you make any decisions?
That is really what we're going to focus on. If anything comes up before that, our safety people are embedded with them right now to assist in the investigation. We'll certainly take that under advisement.
So you came on board at a time when the airports were in chaos because of what's going on in Washington and the partial shutdown and the slowdowns from TSA workers. I'm wondering if that has had an economic effect on the airports just by, you know, lost business, the concessions, things like that.
We have not seen a decline around the passenger flows. That's mainly been when we've had weather issues. Obviously, there'll be an impact because LaGuardia was closed and obviously no flights flew. But our passengers have really struggled. And the TSA agents have really struggled over these last few weeks. We've been running food drives for them.
So do you see any end to this?
I would say that I am cautiously optimistic that DC will resolve this and that people, particularly as we're in the high season of spring break and the holidays, that everyone will be back to normal.
So you took this job at a time when all the airports are in a time of transformation. I guess the biggest project now is JFK. You got a $19 billion transformation. Terminal 1 is supposed to open this year, and I'm told that it's almost as big as the Empire State Building. What is happening there?
So we started off, obviously, with LaGuardia and the success there. I guess JFK got a little jealous. We do anticipate that both Terminal 1, which, as you said, is the size of the Empire State Building, or all of the terminals at LaGuardia would fit in their head house.
Is that true?
Yes.
All of the terminals will fit in just Terminal 1?
Just in Terminal 1.
Wow.
So it's unbelievably large. And we also have Terminal 6.
And that's going to open this year as well?
Yes, that is what we are driving to as we speak. And we're very excited about what that will mean for travelers, both domestically and internationally.
Well, you know, last year, JFK didn't rate so well. It rated 89th in customer satisfaction. I guess you figured that's going to change when you open up Terminal 1 and then Terminal 6. What's going to change? What's going to be different? What's going to be new?
Well, the new terminals are going to have just phenomenal amenities, but we've also done a tremendous amount of work on the roadways. So we think about the customer experience from the moment you decide to buy a ticket, where you choose to fly out of, what your experience is getting to the airport, and then what happens once you're on the plane. all of that is going to be a lot better for our passengers.
So you're changing the roadways. It's going to be easier to get from every place to JFK?
Yes. Oh, yeah. We've spent a tremendous amount of money, over $1 billion, to
$1 billion?
To undo the spaghetti that was the roadway system in JFK. And the New York State is also making investments on the Van Wyck to make it easier to get to the airport. But I would encourage everyone. The governor put a lot of money in her budget for the Jamaica station. The AirTrain can get you there very fast.
So you're telling people don't drive?
Well, you know, whenever you can avoid it, cheaper, easier, faster, you should take public transportation.
And I think I read that the AirTrain goes right through the middle of Terminal 1?
Yes, that's the plan.
So in other words, you're going to be able to take the AirTrain directly into the terminal?
Be right next to Terminal 1, yes.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So it's very similar, actually, to what has occurred in Newark, very similar to that, but we're making tremendous changes there as well.
So, but I mean, is it going to be easier to drop off your bags? Is it going to be easier to get your bags? Is it going to be easier to ticket, to go through security, all of the above?
All of the above, and they are embedding technology into all of those experiences. So even if you had a challenge on your flight, it gets delayed, you got moved to a different flight, your baggage, which might have gone off to Timbuktu, it will know, and it will be able to follow you onto that alternative flight.
So you're telling people that your customer experience, if you lose a bag, you're going to get it back?
You're going to get it back. That's what I've been told.
Okay. So also you're doing a lot of work at Newark Airport.
Absolutely. Newark already has Terminal A, which has gotten accolades. But with the movement of the AirTrain, we're actually having to move it completely out of the way to create space for a brand new Terminal B. And I'm very excited to see that start to kick off.
But you're also testing autonomous vehicles at Newark?
We are.
So tell me what's that going to be like? You're going to get in a vehicle and it's going to drive by itself?
It is going to drive by itself, and we're testing several different prototypes. And part of it is, as we move the AirTrain away from, it's in a semicircle, and we move it back to make space for the new Terminal B, we'll still have the old Terminal B for a while. We're going to need to get people from the AirTrain to those terminals during construction. And so we're looking at whether or not this is an option.
So, I mean, I know that you've tested like 1 or 2 different companies. You have another one that's going to be testing in May. I mean, how's it working out? I mean, do you have a sense that it works and that people will like it?
We have a sense that it works and people will like it. It's very easy to get on with luggage.
Really?
Yeah, big doors.
And
so it's
know,
not like a car.
It's not like a human's going to take you there.
No, but no human will take you there.
Okay. Okay, last but not least, but there's going to be, you're working on a new bus terminal. You have all these projects, so how can you even keep them, you know?
I have a great team. The bus terminal is, I don't know, from all of my life, been really pretty awful, hard to get around, sort of dingy. This is going to be a world-class bus terminal, and we have over 200,000 people who move through the bus terminal every single day. But we're going to need some patience. It's going to take a lot of time to make it so that we are building this world-class institution.
How are you going to be able to do it and still have all those people, 200,000 people coming in and out of the terminal every day?
You more or less end up having to build it twice. So
what?
Yes, so our interim terminal in the future will be our staging and storage area so that buses don't have to go back to New Jersey after the morning commute. But in the interim, we're going to use that to move passengers through.
But what about the approach roads from New Jersey into the bus terminal and back? I know there's some construction going on there. Is that going to make much of a difference?
There's already work underway. There are 2 very large pieces of work that are underway. One is the deckovers of Dyer Avenue, and then the second is what we call the ramp structure. And so that will create the ability of buses to get to the interim station and then to the future bus terminal. So
if I wanted to take a bus from the Port Authority, how's my experience going to change? And when will my experience change?
It's going to take a little bit of time. So we don't anticipate the bus terminal will be completed till 2030. And so what it will mean is that we can load and unload buses much faster. And also the interior experience and what is available to you from a concession standpoint will be better.
So we have about a minute left. I'm just wondering, what was the biggest challenge you faced when you came into this job from all the other jobs you've had?
Well, I mean, this is a tremendous organization. As you said, it has such breadth of different activities on any given day. Is something happening at the PATH train? Is something happening at the GW? What's going on at our airports? And you know, the one that I think is very interesting, and we don't think about it as often, is what's happening at the seaport. Being able to move that much cargo in and out of this region means that we can continue to get foreign goods in the way that we seem to like them.
Okay, on that note, we're going to leave it right there for now. Up next, a man on a mission to bring the Olympics to New York. Brooklyn Assemblyman Robert Carroll wants the Winter Olympic Games here in New York. How in the world did you come up with this idea?
Well, a few years ago, I was watching the Winter Olympics in Beijing, and I realized that all the ice events and some of the snow events were in Beijing, but 200 miles away, they were doing all the snow events. And it was right at the same time as New York State was investing in modernizing all the legacy sites in Lake Placid from the 1980 Games. And I realized that just a second, we could do the same thing here in New York.
Yeah, but you want to do it in
New York City and Lake Placid.
Which is 5 hours apart.
Which is exactly what Milan and Cortina were last month. And I was in Milan and Cortina, took mass transit between both. If they can do it in Italy,
what mass transit is going to go between Lake Placid and New York City?
You could take Amtrak from New York City to Albany or Saratoga, and then you could get on a bus for another 2.5 hours, just like I did.
It doesn't sound exactly appealing.
Look, when there's a will, there's a way, Marcia. And one of the reasons...
Remember, you're going to have to move all those people, all those fans, all the Olympians, all the officials, all the...
But what you have to realize is it's a 19-day event. The ice events would be happening in New York City, so hockey, figure skating, speed skating, maybe a big air or aerials at Yankee Stadium. And then your snow events would all happen. So your alpine skiing, your cross-country skiing, your ski jumping, and your sliding events, your bobsled, would happen in Lake Placid. So some people would only be in Lake Placid, some people would only be in New York City, and some people would maybe move between the two.
You mean like the fans?
Like the fans, but we can do it. The new model for the IOC is to have a big international city host the opening and closing ceremonies and the ice events, and then have small alpine towns host the alpine, Nordic, and sliding events. That's the model. That's what they did in Italy. And I think if they can do it in Italy, we can do it here in New York.
So what New York City places would you use?
Madison Square Garden, right in Midtown, the Barclays Center. You could use UBS Arena or the U.S. Tennis Center, maybe Citi Field or Yankee Stadium, again, like I said, for a big air or an aerials competition. You could, you would have all of
But you're talking about ice events, so would you have to, flood these areas and make ice?
No,
ice
I mean, there's
arenas?
ice. So there's ice underneath the floor of MSG and the Barclays Center and USB Arena every single day of the week. And then, and they could host, again, figure skating, short track skating, hockey. For your long track speed skating, you might use the Javits Center or the Park Avenue Armory.
But you would flood those.
Well, you would bring in a refrigerated track. I mean, and then for curling, you could, again, maybe go to a Park Avenue Armory, a U.S. Tennis Center. This is highly doable. This is exactly what they just did in Milan.
What year do you think you could actually bring this?
So the next available games is 2038. But in honesty, that's probably going to Switzerland. So it'd be 2042. And so it's over 15 years away. But that's how the Olympics works. They award these games 10 to 12 years before they happen. So
what has to happen here for you to be able to do it?
So I'm really excited. The reason we're able to do this is because of Governor Hochul's leadership. She was the one who invested in modernizing the Olympic sites in Lake Placid. We have all the other private infrastructure here in New York. We need to now create an exploratory committee to say, hey, is Bobby Carroll crazy or am I not?
Are you crazy?
I'm not crazy. This is the great civic opportunity for the state to bring upstate and downstate together. And so what I hope is that over the next couple of months, Governor Hochul brings us together, folks from New York City, folks from Lake Placid, to explore this idea so that in the next year or so, we can decide if this is right for New York, and if it is right for New York, that we have a bid committee ready to go by late 2027, so that we can raise their hand, because it's at that point that the IOC is probably going to start asking other cities if they want to host the 2042 Olympics.
So, all right, you have a state with a budget problem, you have a city with a budget problem. How much is all of this going to cost in terms of an investment, even for an exploratory committee?
Well, exploratory committee can be privately financed, and it is not very expensive. But the other great thing about this is because of previous investment by New York State, we have all the necessary infrastructure. We wouldn't have that for a Summer Games, but we do have it for Winter Games. And so we don't need to build any new sports infrastructure. And that's the great thing. So if we were to win a Games, what we could do is focus on investments that people care about: transportation, housing, greening our infrastructure. We would not have to build any new sports stadiums, any new tracks.
There's always these Olympic villages. So you'd have to build an Olympic village in Lake Placid. You'd have to build an Olympic village someplace
in New
New
York.
York City.
So Milan and Cortina show the way here as well. So in Milan, they built a permanent Olympic village that's going to become student housing. So they partnered with a university there.
So what you're saying is New York City needs housing, let's build it and then people can live there.
Exactly. And then in Cortina, what they did was they built temporary housing. So they've taken that housing down now. And so there are so many better models. The old way that they did the Olympics, where they had people build new sports infrastructure and other infrastructure that was unnecessary, is no longer there. And so this is a really leaner type of games, and it's something that New York can do. And that's why the Winter Olympics makes so much more sense for New York than a Summer Games.
How much money would it take to build these housing and transportation and all the things, the concessions, the things that you're going to need to host an event like that, a world-class event for a world?
Well, again, I just want to say we have the sports infrastructure. What we would need to do is, look, partner with the private sector, or partner with universities, or partner with nonprofit developers if we want to build permanent, affordable, or student housing in New York. And then in Lake Placid, whether you want to build affordable or workforce housing, or you want to build temporary housing.
But how, again, price tag.
Well, and that's...
And
so
who
much.
pays?
Well, so what they've done in Utah, which is hosting the 34 games, is they have a privately financed Winter Olympic Games. I think the reason why we want the governor to come in, and she's been very positive about this idea and very positive about bringing upstate and downstate together, and it's her leadership that I think is going to be critical here, is saying, how can we thoughtfully, privately finance and host a Winter Olympic Games? That's why we need to have this exploratory committee. But again, we have the sports infrastructure. And I can tell you this, I think we have a lot of the transportation infrastructure too, as just having been in Italy and traveling between Milan and Cortina.
What's the estimated economic benefit to New York?
Well, there's going to be huge benefit, right? Showing the world why New York is a dynamic and wonderful place has an intangible benefit that you're never going to be able to...
Everybody already knows we're wonderful.
But Marcia, we got to keep proving it, right? You know it's wonderful. I know it's wonderful. But we must continue to face out to the world as we have people in Washington and elsewhere who want to turn inward and make our country a place that is divided. I think New York can be a beacon of hope, and I think it's a really great opportunity.
Okay, we're going to have to leave it right there for now, but our conversations continue on our streaming channel, CBS News New York. We'll be right back. Thank you for joining me. Outdoor dining is back, and you can dine al fresco starting Wednesday. But the New Yorkers hanker for a year-round dining extravaganza. They're weighing in on your point. Do you think that outdoor dining should be year-round?
I love outdoor dining. Big fan of that.
If possible, yeah.
Oh, I love eating outdoors. I love the weather.
You do?
Yeah, even if it's raining, I love it.
If people are willing to go out there in the cold and they're set up for warmth, then yeah, I'm for it.
So it is a beautiful thing, but New York City, I mean, in the wintertime, it's extremely cold.
It gets too cold.
I just don't think I would want to sit outside in the winter.
Why do we need outdoor dining year-round?
That's a good question. So what are the pros of outdoor dining?
The fresh air.
I mean, being outside, being in the fresh air.
Post-COVID, the more we're in a little bit open air, better.
I think it's good for the soul to be sitting outside anyway.
You feel like you're in Paris. You feel like you're in Europe. It adds a life to the city that I think is really beautiful.
The pros are that it provides extra seating and helps struggling small restaurants.
What are the cons?
Street noise,
The dirty breeze.
parking.
I mean, it can be in the way.
It does take up space on the street side, on the curb side, and when improperly installed, they can really be a problem for getting, they're just ugly,
The rats problem.
The rats.
Yeah.
The birds, the outdoor. You can't really plan the weather.
You don't like pigeons?
No, and they're everywhere.
So have you ever been any other place besides New York City where outdoor dining worked?
Yeah, San Francisco. It's fantastic.
Yeah, but only in like the warmer seasons.
Maybe Florida. Florida, South Florida, you go anywhere down, everything's outside.
In Paris, I was always impressed with that.
I happily spend a lot of time in Europe. It's part of their culture, right? Italy, Paris.
All over Europe. I mean, you go anywhere in Europe.
In Europe, it works really well.
Why can they make it work and we can't?
It's a great question. That's a really good question. I guess it's because of space. It's because of room.
Why? I think we're not, I don't want to say this word, I love this city, not sophisticated enough to do what makes it pleasant for everybody. The pleasures of a daily life, which I think the Europeans, it's important to them more than us. We're rushing and rushing.
Why do you think there's such a controversy about outdoor dining?
Mostly because of parking.
The shootings, the pickpocket, it's just so much. We're talking about New York City.
There's not a sense of collective joy or responsibility.
I mean, I think that people just have different values on what it is that they actually, want.
It's so hard for some of these small businesses to stay in New York City. Let them have more tables. I never really understood any of that. Let them have more tables.